Welcome back to the Exit Teams podcast, where business owners and their advisors get real practical insight on how to build a team of advisors, maximize value, and exit on their own terms. I'm your host, Bob Tankesley, author of Exit Teams, Build a Team of Advisors for Your Business Sale to Get a Higher Price. You can find that book and all kinds of content at exitteams.com. Whether you're years away from selling or even thinking about an exit now, this episode is packed with must-know tips to help you take advantage of opportunities while avoiding costly mistakes. Today, I'm joined by an expert in the world of wealth stewardship, my good friend, Chris Gardner. Chris is a wealth advisor who works with business owners and executives to help them steward wealth with clarity, purpose, and long-term vision. Chris's work focuses on helping families align their financial decisions with what matters most, including faith, family, generosity, and legacy. Chris grew up on the mission fields in Peru, South America, and that early experience shaped his conviction that money is really a tool, not a trophy. When he entered the advisory world, he brought that same mindset with him, helping clients establish clear boundaries around lifestyle, think intentionally about legacy, and deploy resources toward lasting impact. Today, Chris helps families simplify complex financial decisions, navigate growth responsibly, and build plans that reflect wisdom and conviction. His life mission is to help deploy $1 billion for kingdom impact by guiding families to live generously and intentionally with the resources entrusted to them. Chris, welcome to the show, man. I'm glad to have you on.
And I'm so glad to be here. I don't know of another book that I have handed out more of than my own. I've handed out more of my own, but after mine, yours is the book I hand out the most to people who are trying to buy and sell businesses. I'm telling them this is the place you need to go. It's a phenomenal book, and you need to check it out if somebody hasn't done that yet.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot. I'm actually about halfway through yours. I'd like to get done with it the next day or two.
Love it.
Great read. We'll actually loop your book in later in the conversation. So for anyone watching or listening who wants to understand what life after business ownership could look like with a generosity mindset, this should be a great episode. So let's dive in. Chris, let's start here at the top. Let's talk about wealth with purpose. I've noticed over the years, many owners, they spend decades building a business, but when they finally create meaningful wealth, they may not have clearly answered the deeper question. What is this actually for? This money that I've netted out of this business or I've accumulated while owning this business. You often talk about connecting money with purpose. When does a business owner who has built significant wealth, when a business owner who has built significant wealth, why is that question about connecting money with purpose so important?
And so what I tell people is there's only three ways to use money. You can use money for toys, and everybody needs a few toys, no doubt about it. But you can use money for toys. You can use money as a trophy that you get to show off how much of it you have, or you can use it as a tool. And I believe that money is a tool, and there's a reason that we have money, and it ought to be used as a tool. And so as you've built your businesses, one of the things I love telling people when we're talking about purpose before price is a liquidity event does not solve an identity crisis. A liquidity event does not solve an identity crisis. So what I mean by that is if you don't know who you are and what you're doing up front, selling a business and having a gigantic liquidity event, it does not save or help in any way, form, or fashion. So that matters more than the actual wealth and the actual business that somebody has built.
I wonder if, having access to all that liquid net worth now, if the purpose wasn't properly defined and worked toward ahead of that liquidity event, I wonder if all that liquid net worth actually could it make things worse? I mean, could it?
Oh, yeah. Money's nothing but an amplifier. So
Yeah.
literally all money does is amplify. People are like, oh no, he has money now. And so he's become this way. No, he's not become this way. What money does is allows us to remove our filters. We don't have to please anybody anymore. So a kind person with money is even more kind. A jerk with money is even more of a jerk. He is more gifted at that, and he doesn't care anymore because he has no boss. He has no boss. He has no clients. He has money, and money's able to serve him. And so, I believe one of the biggest responsibilities of a person is to work out their identity and their purpose way before talking about having a liquidity event, because over 75% of people that sell their business in 1 month regret having sold it.
Wow.
But I've never had a client regret having sold his business when we work through his identity and what the liquidity is going to prepare him for, not just preparing him for liquidity. So there's a future beyond liquidity. And when your identity is wrapped up in a business, all of a sudden you sell the business, you literally just yanked the carpet out from underneath the feet of the person. And you're like, you no longer have an identity because the business is no longer yours. And for 30 to 90 days, you'll enjoy your identity being the fact that you sold it. But then all of a sudden you become the has-been, unless you have decided and know what you're doing and where you're going. And I tell people you have to be very careful when talking exit planning. You're one of the very few exceptions that I found to this rule, is that for most people, when you discuss exit planning, it's about dollars. It's not about purpose. It's not about identity. It's not about where they're going. And so if somebody's not driven, if they're transactionally driven to make something happen, it actually hurts the business owner. You've done very well at not being that. But most people, when you go into the M&A world, investment banking world, those people, it literally becomes, hey, okay, this is the amount of dollars I can get you. And they think that that's going to answer the question. And the truth of the matter is, money doesn't answer any question. All it does is amplify the questions. If money if you're looking at money to answer them, it never will.
That is well stated. That's going to be that's going to be one of those most watched segments. I think we're going to make a short or a reel out of what you just said there. That's fantastic, and appreciate again another plug. I have purposely designed exit teams to answer a lot of questions, that don't involve going straight to market. I've designed exit teams to help owners deal with issues that don't even involve a transaction. And I may
Yep.
take a back seat for months or years, but if there's bigger issues, both personally and within the business, that need to be figured out and dealt with and managed first, then that's what needs to happen.
Absolutely.
You've used the phrase, I've noticed, wealth without purpose always asks for more.
Hmm.
I got to read that again. That is so powerful. Wealth without purpose always asks for more. I mean, that seems especially relevant to owners who have spent their lives chasing the next milestone, the next big account, the next big acquisition, the next big hire. But what do you mean by wealth without purpose always asks for more? And follow up, how does that tend to show up in the lives of successful business owners?
And that's a powerful question. I tell people more is nothing but a treadmill where you never arrive at a destination. And so the truth of the matter is, I don't know if you remember this. I remember when I first started making money, I started a little lawnmower business. My mom made the greatest cookies ever. And so I ended up selling cookies from the very young age. I've been very entrepreneurial. And I remember growing up, I was like, man, if I could make $100 a week, and I still remember, if I made $100 a week, I would be like the richest person ever. And then you arrive at $100 a week, and the appetite for more doesn't go away. You and I both know I can't even pay my electricity bill with $100 a week in Georgia, especially this year. And so what happens is it started at $100 a week, and then it became $100,000 a year. And I have clients. So most of my clients are business owners, high net worth and ultra high net worth business owners. And when I talked to him, I was talking to somebody the other day who has a business, and he said, I'm going to sell my business for $24 million. Do you think you can produce 180,000 for me off of that? I was like, I'm telling you, anybody can do that. You can take that to your local bank and have it in a bank account with a horrible return and still get what you need off of 24 million. Not a problem at all, my friend. And now I know this guy's history. He grew up in a trailer. Okay.
Oh,
And so I know his
yeah.
history. I know where he comes from. He grew up in a trailer on the wrong side of the tracks, has worked hard, is a brilliant man. And so as we're talking, he goes, I think you may have misunderstood me. I need 180,000 a month.
Oh, okay. That's different.
That's different. And so it's funny to me because what happens is if we don't, by the time you take 24 million and then talk about taxes and what's going to happen with taxes and then whatever's left over, can you produce 180,000? That's a whole different equation there. And but the funny thing to me was this: a guy that grew up on the wrong side of the tracks in a single parent home that ate peanut butter and jelly not by choice, had no money growing up, did not even have a car when he started his business, now has a need of $180,000 a month. That's his need. That's what he needs to have to continue to grow. So the appetite of more, it's all, and what happens is we start out making $100, and among our friends, we're like, "Oh man, I'm making $100," and so you get these friends at $100, and then there's one of your friends that makes 200, and you're like, "Oh, now I need to make 200," and then you get to 200, and all of a sudden you're sitting there with the $200 guy, and oh, now it's 500, and your friends keep growing, and that means their hobbies grow, their vacations grow, and you got to keep up with the Joneses. So I believe the biggest thing that a person can decide, no matter what your net worth, I have people working with me who have more money than most people watching this can even comprehend. And even with them, I tell them the most powerful exercise you will ever have is deciding how much is enough. If you can decide how much enough is, we can get there. If you can't decide how much enough is, the thirst for more will always grow.
That is well said. We appreciate that. We tend to adjust our spending and our lifestyle to how much we're making, don't we?
Yes, a little bit more than what we're making, just a little bit
A
more.
little bit more. Yep. Hey, let's talk about the shift in the owner's identity. Let's take that a little further. What happens emotionally when an owner sells the business and no longer has that massive part of the identity? Because for most owners, the business has not just been an asset; it's been themselves. The business is the owner is the business. They're often indistinguishable, but the name of a company. Um, what does what does all that look like in terms of shifting the owner mindset?
Yeah, it's one of the things I like saying to my clients is that the sell of your business should fund your purpose, not become your purpose. So a person literally will see the sell of the business as the finish line. That's not the finish line. You are not finished at all when you sell the business. Yes, it's a great accomplishment. Yes, you need to celebrate with your family. Yes, you need to take some time off, but that is not your purpose. Your purpose is not the sell of the business. And so the sell of your business should fund your purpose. So the question is, then becomes, what's your purpose? Now, not what is your identity, but your identity tells you what your purpose is. So the question is, what is your purpose? What do you want to do in life? So for me, it's deploying $1 billion for Kingdom Impact. That's what I want to do. If I'm a wealth manager, that's what I'm going to be doing. If I own a business, that's what I'm going to be doing. That's my purpose. Deploying $1 billion for Kingdom Impact. And I will tell you that deploying $1 billion for Kingdom Impact is not just giving money to charities. It's actually helping small businesses grow if they're actually impacting their community and the area where they're at. So you have to make sure that your identity is, you have to find what your identity is. That identity will then tell you what your purpose is. And your purpose cannot be your business in the same way that your purpose cannot be the sell of your business. So you need to know the legacy that you want to leave behind. And people really mess this legacy word up. People who obsess about leaving a legacy rarely do. Those who live a legacy always do. And so it's not what you leave a person, it's what you leave in a person that leaves your legacy. It's not about the money. And so we're talking about exit planning. We're like, oh, you're going to leave a legacy. You're going to leave a legacy. No. You left a legacy way before, and you're going to leave a legacy way after. It's not what you leave a person. It's what you leave in a person, how you've loved them, how you've guided them. So your purpose matters so much. You have to decide what you want to do in life. And no matter, I'm 50 years old now, and people used to laugh at me when I would say this, and I was younger. I was 25, and I would say, "Hey, what do you want to be when you grow up?" And they'd be like, "Well, of course the 25-year-old asks that." I still ask 65-year-old, 70-year-old clients, "What do you want to be when you grow up? What is your purpose?" When you can define your purpose, then the money becomes nothing but a tool to get you to where you're wanting to go.
Again, so powerful. I love that line about what you leave in people. Too many people, whether owners or people around the owners, think that a legacy is, the name on a school's building,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
a wing of a church, or a street named after them, or some major physical, I can see it leave behind type of accomplishment. But what really lives on, and has greater potential, are the people that we've influenced while we were here.
Yeah. Probably my favorite line when it comes to this is this: if all you get from selling a business is money, you've actually sold something far more valuable than what you realized. If all you're getting is money, you may have sold something far more valuable than you realized. So know what your purpose is. Let that business drive you towards your purpose. If you're in
Yeah.
your business today and you're growing it for an exit, great, but don't make that your purpose in life. And then use this, whatever that business is, the running of your business for your purpose. Use the selling of your business for your purpose.
It kind of sounds like we're talking about stewardship
Yeah.
versus ownership. I read in your bio, you'd like to be thought of as a wealth steward. I think that's a great title or category, or how people should think of how you approach things. Your background and advisory philosophy emphasize that, like I said, or I think you said at the outset, money is a tool, not just a trophy. It's a powerful distinction for owners who may have spent years measuring success by what they were able to accumulate. So, getting into this idea of stewardship, how does that change the way owners think about wealth?
Um, I believe that every owner needs to understand that they're not really an owner. They need to understand that they're stewards. They were gifted by God the ability to be where they're at. Now, I understand that that brings my bias and my view into things, but I am a firm believer in the fact that um, I would say that most businesses have succeeded by very intelligent people that have a lot of grit and who have been pretty lucky along the way. And we don't want to call it luck because luck seems to come to those that work the hardest. So I'm all about that.
The
So
harder I work, the luckier I am, that kind of thing. Yeah.
absolutely. So but when it comes down to it, it's not. Some of my best clients that I have, I got them the luckiest way, but it wasn't really luck when it comes down to it because I was working. So I get it. But you were gifted this by God. God gave you the mind that you wake up with in the morning. You never have woken up in the morning and said, "Hey, lungs begin to function. Heart, will you continue to work throughout the day?" You have been given an incredible gift that I believe your job is to steward. So the question as a steward is not, what do I do? My question for a business owner is, if you were not if you were not the owner of your company, if you were not the boss, would you be upset with yourself as an employee?
I like that.
And so all it means, by the way, that doesn't mean, I'm not talking about a martyr complex. I'm not talking about, hey, live on nothing, give all of your money away. That's not at all what I'm saying. What I am saying is know that you are a steward. Know that you are a steward, not an owner of whatever business you have. When you do that, then the question is not, what do I want to do with this business? The question is, how does God want to use this business for his glory?
It's kind of like you're shifting the mind from how much do I have to, what do I want this to do?
Exactly. You shift it from a trophy to a tool. You
Yeah.
shift it from a trophy to a tool. This is nothing more than what I'm going to do what I believe that God has put in my life. And so I have clients. I have the best clients in the world. I have clients who have businesses in the logistics space and the manufacturing space and all of these crazy places. I've got people that own roofing companies and people that own lawn care businesses. And it's funny because I'll sit down with them and they're like, man, I really want to stop sex trafficking. And I'm like, man, that's incredible. So they're using their business as a tool to do that. Well, guess what? When it comes time to sell their business, if we structure things correctly, that's a big portion of that. Hey, I really want to help homelessness. And so we actually have people doing all that they can to help homelessness. And we have people, hey, I want to help water people with water all over the world. And so they help a couple of nonprofits over do that. So they view their business as a tool, not a trophy. By the way, some of these people have private jets. I'm not saying at all that, if you're not careful, you're sitting there and you go, as a steward, does that mean that I've got to drive a jalopy that barely runs and I have to be on bald tires all the time? That's not at all what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you understand that you're a steward, you understand that your landscaping business has an impact on more than the greenery that you cut every day.
Yeah.
And
Oh, I
that's
love
when
it.
you understand that. By the way, it makes you get up in the morning because hey,
Yes.
this month I've taken 10 young ladies off of the streets in the city of Nepal because they were being trafficked. And these 10 young ladies are out of that lifestyle because I cut grass. Man, can I tell you, I don't like cutting grass. I pay a landscaper. But if I knew that my landscaping was doing that, I'd get out and cut grass all day, every day. It changes the way you do your business.
I can see that. It shifts it from time to make the donuts to I get to make the I get to see
Yeah,
what making the donuts does for other people.
yeah, absolutely. And there's nothing, it doesn't. So I've traveled to over 40 countries around the world. There's nothing that connects people in this world more than generosity. If you show generosity in America, Americans understand it. If you show generosity in Mexico, they understand it. If you show it in Iraq, they understand it. If you show it in Egypt, if Morocco, if you show it in Colombia, Peru, Venezuela, the generosity connects people. And
Yep.
by the way, I have the privilege since I grew up in Peru of helping Peruvian business owners that are not making near the amount of zeros that we're making here in the United States, that still view their business as a vehicle to the better good. I'm telling you, it's the craziest, coolest thing ever when every business owner grasps the fact that I'm making $500 a month in Peru. And they go, but I don't need 500. I live on 400 without a problem. I'm going to take this $100 and I'm going to do something that's going to impact. Watching people as they grasp the idea that their business is built for more is life changing.
And God put in each one of us in our hearts, the ability to understand the impact of generosity. And it wasn't by accident that He put, us getting a very good feeling from doing it for others in our hearts as well.
Absolutely.
There's every owner has family. So let's talk about family. Every owner I've talked with has family. I'm sure not all of them do, but the vast majority of them do. So I got to imagine, ahead of a liquidity event, the owner needs to have certain conversations with different members of the family
Hmm.
about what this event coming up might do to the family, for the family, and if they haven't talked about among themselves about values and expectations and maybe even purpose, then money can create confusion instead of clarity, right? So you're taking what we talked about earlier, money possibly being a tragic outcome to having access to so much money for the owner themselves. Now multiply that times all the different family members that it could be impacting. What advice would you give for owners who maybe have not had that conversation with family yet before a sale?
Is the biggest thing I would say is that the biggest financial decisions are usually made before anyone starts negotiating. And so you have to understand your family is vital in this process. Um, at the same time, I believe there's a misnomer in our world that loving your children equally equals equal distributions. And that's in no way the case. And so I believe that a good advisor is going to sit down and work through these things and help people. So in a lot of liquidity events, we set up college funding for the family before they start their liquidity event. We start up because the deal is $100 million split three ways because you have three children is not usually the best plan. Because all of us have that one knucklehead that'll grow out of being a knucklehead. By the way, I was the knucklehead, so but all of us have the knucklehead in our family. Giving him $33 million, all you're going to, or giving him $3 million, or giving him $300,000, you are not leaving a good legacy by leaving that in the hands of someone who will not do right by it. You're going to hurt them, not help them, as you understand that. But all of that needs to be planned out way before. And your conversations, you need to be very careful that in your conversations, you're not sharing absolutely everything with every family member unless every family member can handle that. So there's a lot of questions built around family. Hey, we're gonna have a liquidity event of $100 million, and the kids are sitting there going, okay, 100 divided by 3, that's 33.3. That's like they're literally thinking that in their head, and they don't understand that half of the money is going to go to the government if you don't structure it extremely well. It's going to go to the government. Oh, so now it didn't go to 33 million. Now we're down to 16 million a pop. Okay, 16 million a pop. That's still a pretty good amount of money. I wonder what I could do with 16 million. And are you going to give any of that to us up front? Straight, those kind of things
the
matter a
upfront
lot.
question. Yeah.
Yeah. And so 16 million a piece is a lot of money. Even on 10 million, $1.6 million is a gigantic sum of money. You're going to have that one child that if you put $300,000 in a business that they're starting, they're going to turn that into $30 million.
Yeah.
And then you have the other one that if you put $300,000 in his hands, he's going to be driving a nice Maserati that he's going to total after the DUI. It's not smart. So you need to know your family. You need to understand your family, and you need to have conversations way before talking to your family with advisors that will guide you through that. And I tell people, you need a financial advisor that is a shepherd. You need one that's a pastor. And that sounds so weird to say that, but it's not just a guy with a calculator. Because honestly, if a financial advisor just has a calculator and is telling you the best stock or mutual fund, he's not good at his job. Yeah. He should know your family. He should know your problems. He should know your good, your bad, your ugly, so that then he can say to you, as we structure this, let's structure it in the following 3 ways. Let's structure it and he can help you through that whole thing. And when you take that to somebody like Bob takes that and goes, oh, that's easy. Let's do that. We'll bring the right people in and we'll make that happen. But if you're not careful, it becomes a simple calculator in my head, dividing it by 3. That's not, you need to make sure that you set expectations. Misunderstandings come from the fact that I judge my intentions while I judge someone else's actions. A liquidity event is the worst place for judging intentions versus actions. The kids are sitting there going, intention. Oh, my intention. I bet, you know what? I can do this. I'll pay my house off. I'll do this. And the parents never thought that. They're 50 years old selling a business. They still have a lot of life ahead of them. So setting the right expectations and not allowing people to assume things is very, very, very important. So,
yeah. Let's take this a little bit further. Let's talk about, okay, we've had the family conversation. We're solid there, or we're getting there. We're getting a common shared understanding. Let's move toward generosity, with call it excess wealth. I noticed that your stated mission, one of them is to help deploy $1 billion. That's a billion with a B, for kingdom impact, by guiding families to live generously and intentionally with their resources. How did that mission how does it continue to shape the way you advise business owners? I mean, I would love to see that happen, and we'll do everything I can to help make that possible.
Yeah. Well, so first of all, I have to say that my job is not to drive my mission. through other people's portfolios. But what I find is I end up advising the best people in the world, the most amazing business owners. So they come to me, they're already generous. They're already doing some great stuff. And so what I free them to do that most advisors don't do, and there's three questions we ask every single person that we work with. How much is enough? Number two, because here's the deal. I was sitting with a business owner the other day, and they're like, I can sell my business right now for $17 million. I'm like, okay, great. How much do you live on? Live on about $120,000 a year. Okay, great. What kind of debt do you have? Oh, I don't have any debt of any sort. I literally live on $10,000 a month. Do what I want, when I want, the way I want. Not a problem. No house payment, no car payment, no nothing like that. Okay, awesome. How much money do you have in your portfolio? Of course, I know because I'm looking at it. And they're like, oh, 7 million. Okay, $7 million. What else do you have? Oh, our business pays rent on the buildings, triple net lease. And so we get a $25,000 a month rent check from the business. Okay. And then she goes, I don't want to sell the business for 17 million. It needs to sell for 20. And I said, you do realize the number that you sell your business at does not matter at all, because your lifestyle is not impacted. Your triple net lease can literally fund your entire lifestyle. Your funds that you have with me can fund your entire lifestyle, and whatever you're going to sell your business can fund your entire lifestyle. So structure drives outcomes, but we have to know what you want first. So generosity, this lady wants to be generous, and so we're walking her through what to do. One of the things that I love doing is using a donor advised fund. And so this is probably and everybody will do donor advised funds. We just do it quite differently. So what we tell people is a donor advised fund is any of your high net worth or ultra high net worth people should have a donor advised fund. And if their advisor has not advised them to have a donor advised fund and they are generous, more than likely they need to find another advisor. Like, that's just a tool that every single person needs to use that is generous. And so a donor advised fund, you take a $10 million company, we can take a company and donate part of that company to the donor advised fund before the sale.
Interesting.
Okay. So think about this. What always happens to me, oh man, when I make this money, I'm going to give a tithe to my local church, or I'm going to give 10% to, and I look at them, I'm like, no, don't do that. And they're like, Chris, you're not that guy. Why are you doing that? And so the donor advised fund, they give 10% of the shares of the business to a donor advised fund. Now, when the liquidity event happens, $1 million goes straight to the donor advised fund. They only have a liquidity event of 9 million. That 1 million is able to be given straight up to whatever charity they want to. And they just took money out of the IRS's pocket and put it over there in a 100% legit way. Okay. So now they're taxed on 9 million, but even goes beyond that, because here's what also happens. You're only paying taxes on 9 million. So you have the $1 million in the donor advised fund, free and open to give that money to any entity that you want to. That's awesome. But then once the business funds, they get a cash donation receipt of $1 million. So now they're only getting 9 million with a $1 million tax write-off on the 9 million, and they get the other million over here that's just sitting there. So it's a double tax write-off effectively. There's actually ways to make it a triple tax write-off, but that has to be done in a little bit in advance. It can't be you can do a donor advised fund and arrange this stuff in about a month. The other one takes about a year and 2 or 3 months, but there are ways to get tons of money that you can use in the donor advised fund. So what makes me be able to do what I do is these 3 questions. How much is enough? The second question, how much is enough for your family? I ask this question all the time as we're buying and selling businesses, because this is something we do all the time because I work with high net worth individuals. So high net worth business owners. And so they're buying and they're selling, and I'm always at the table helping them. How much is enough for the family? Is your son going to be better off leaving him 15 million than he would if you leave him 3 million?
Interesting.
Did you know that I've never had anybody say, yes, he'll be better off at 15 million than he would with 3 million? Yeah, Warren Buffett said, I want to give my kids a leg up, but not two legs up on a couch. And so is 3 million better? Is 10 million better? Is 30 million better? So we asked that question. So how much is enough? The second question is, how much is enough for the family? Okay. The third question is the important one. What are we doing with the rest? And then I love adding this tagline at the end. And why not now? Okay. Most advisors, no matter whether they call themselves Christian advisors or whatever, most advisors look at it and they go, the minute the money leaves my control is the minute that I lose money that I make every year for my family. Well, my why is not how much money can I make for my family. My why is to deploy $1 billion for Kingdom Impact. So what I give people the freedom to do is I give them the freedom to do that now, not from a pine box. And
And
I
to
love,
see the benefit of it while they're still living.
yeah. Well, I sat across from a guy the other day who was close to 80 years old, and he literally, this is a man, a developer, has done some phenomenal stuff. Like, if I told you some of the stuff he did, you'd be like, "Oh my goodness, I know those places." This guy is incredible. He's 80 years old. He has close to $100 million, and he's sitting there across the table. This man has negotiated with the best of the best. His call list and his contact book and his cell phone is worth billions of dollars. Okay. And he just picks up the phone, calls the biggest people in our country. And here's what he said to me. He's sitting there talking to me about having deployed $15 million to develop a university in India. And he was a blubbering idiot, crying the whole time, and he loved it. Like, he's, I'm so sorry, man. I'm like, no, this is incredible. And then I looked at him and I said, man, he said, I'm a blubbering idiot. I said, no. I said, this is exactly what it's all about. I said, so with the money that you have invested in the market, what are you going to do with it? And he goes, well, I'm leaving $3 million for each of my 3 children. And then the rest of it's going to charity. He's not my client, but we talk money. Wherever I go, I'm talking money with people. And so he said, I'm leaving $3 million for each of my kids. He said, that'll give them a leg up. They can do what they want. This will help them. And he said, the rest of it's going to charity. And so my response was, huh. He goes, so what's your opinion? I said to him, I value our friendship more than I value my opinion. Of course, I knew he was going to ask me again. So he says, no, tell me what you think. And I said, I think that's the dumbest plan I've ever heard. He's like, Chris, that's exactly what you're telling people to do, is to deploy money for Kingdom Impact. I said, no. I said, you sat across the table from me. You have built some of the most beautiful buildings in the state of Georgia, in the state of Texas. You are incredible. And you did not talk to me about that. You had tears streaming down your face about how amazing it was and the impact you made in a community in India as you built this. And I said, and the next time you do it, you plan on doing it from a pine box? I said, I'm sorry, yours will be mahogany. I am a firm believer in giving money away with a warm hand, not a cold hand. But to do that, you have to have an advisor that values that more than he values his bottom line. Because of that, that advisor has also had to decide how much is enough, so that he's not freaking out about losing money every year, because his lifestyle has grown so much that if he doesn't have that guy's money until the day he dies, he can't do anything with it. So
Good stuff. So that's powerful. Warm hand, cold hand. I'm going to remember that for a while. Uh, wow. So I imagine this kind of planning that you can help people with can't be done. Most of it can't be done in the few days leading up to selling the company. But we're talking, you know, 2, 3, 5+ years? What does that time horizon tend to look like optimally?
Yeah, so I would tell people if they can get with me 30 days before a sell, I can help them with structure.
Mm,
Okay, I can help get the structure in place, but we're gonna have to forget a lot of the small talk that we do. We're gonna have to forget all of that kind of stuff. Okay, but we can help you get the structure together in 30 to 90 days until the sell date. But wealth does not fix problems. It just creates new ones. And so we actually have a 7-step process that we go through with our clients where we talk about their family, we talk about the team that they have, we talk about their business, and we go through all of these things. And here's what happens. Every year we go through this stuff. And then by the time we start the next year, we got to start all over again because we have a new set of problems.
yep.
So our whole thing is we don't, our investment strategy is as good as anybody out there. I'm like, our investment strategy is phenomenal, but it's not really about the investment strategy. The investment strategy is a small piece of what a business owner truly needs. And
Agreed.
so we actually help people with generosity. They're like, hey, I want to be generous. I had a client just the other day wanted to give a nonprofit who gets about $1 million in funding every year, wanted to give them $13 million. I know the nonprofit. And I told them, you will destroy the nonprofit when you do that. And he said, what do you mean? I said, they will have 3 or 4 years where they will look great. And then after that, all of that money is going to dissipate. So we help them talk about the nonprofits that they work with. We talk about what kind of capital improvements they can do instead of ongoing money so we try and help them no matter what the problem is. If it has a dollar sign attached to it, we do everything that we can to help our clients with that. It is way different than most. You sit down in the office and they go, the best mutual fund today is, or I've got a great stock pick. Those are not financial advisors. Those are stock pickers. And you might as well go to Chat GPT because they can do that as well as any of the advisors out there.
Let's take that a little further because I agree. I think at last count, I remember hearing there's, I don't know, 500,000 people in this country that call themselves financial advisors, and too many of them, I've noticed, way too many, don't like to collaborate with other advisors, what I call team members, people that sit around the owner, kind of orbit the owner and are part of that collaborative advisory team. How do you tend to loop in or coordinate with the owner's other advisors like the CPA, various attorneys, M&A
Yeah.
people, other types of core deal team people, I'll call it. What is
Yes.
what does collaboration look like in your world?
I believe that I believe that if you have an advisor that's not wanting to collaborate, you don't have an advisor. Like I mean, I don't. You're paying somebody to run mutual funds and stocks for you, and that's a total waste of money. And so I tell people God has gifted me with 2 things in this world. I am able to connect people better than anybody else. And the second thing is I know how to align incentives better than anybody else. So I'm usually the first guy that gets the phone call. Hey, Chris, we're thinking about selling our
Yep.
business. And
Yep.
as soon as I get that phone call, as soon as I get it, I'm like, okay, talk to me about why, talk to me about what, give me a couple of, and literally I'll have a 1 hour conversation with them. And then I'm connecting them with you. I'm like, no, talk to Bob. He's going to help us to make sure we get the maximum value for this. And Bob and I will bring the right people to the table. My job is not to be the omnipotent, almighty, all knowing one. My job is to connect you with the best people in the business that are going. Honestly, I don't think Bob is as good as I am at financial planning and at truly creating a plan for people and understanding who they are. But I know I'm not as good at Bob when it comes to exiting a business. But guess what? I don't need the credit. I need my client to be in the best position he can be in to be able to do what he wants to do. So yes, I tell people my job is to be a quarterback. So I get the football and I'm looking around and I go, okay, who's going to do best with it right now? A quarterback that has legs is a great asset for a team. But a quarterback that has legs and also has eyes and an arm, that's the whole package. When you're sitting there looking, okay, that running back's going to be the one that's going to do it now. The guy behind me is going to do it now. When the quarterback
Yeah.
just gets to see the field. And so my job is to go, listen, I'm not a running back, but man, Bob is the absolute best at his job. And before I introduce him to you, I literally carry in my car copies of your book. Like in my car, everywhere I go, I have copies of my book and your book. Because if they say I'm selling a business, I'm like, take this book. You have to read this book. This will give you. And what I love about your book is your book gives the two sides of selling a business. Now, you are a little heavy-handed on every problem that the guy runs into almost every problem a person can run into, which I love because it gives them perspective. And not everybody hits every problem, but they sure do hit a lot of them. And so when people read it, they're like, "Oh my goodness!" And then
There is a little bit of creative liberty disclaimer in
absolutely,
the back end of the book. We
absolutely. And so
we did jam a lot happening to him at once.
exactly. So my whole thing though is my job is not to have the answers. My
Yeah.
job is to connect you with the right person to do that. I am a specialist. I am very good at my specialty. Very good at it. Um, I believe I'm one of the top people in the country that do what I do. But what makes me one of the top people in the country at what I do is that I'm able to bring in people like you and people that can do their specialty and do it well. So yeah, there's nothing better than connecting people in the right time in the right way.
Yeah, and folks listening, watching, Chris doesn't just talk that; he walks it. We've worked on numerous cases together already. Chris, you're kind of big on pushing out content, like we are here at Exit Teams. You've got a TED Talk that you've delivered called "The Myth of Scarcity." The book we talked about at the outset, "Check What You Are Chasing." Outstanding read as well. I think that needs to go in tandem with the Exit Teams book. What does what I got to ask? What motivates you to educate first, and how have you seen over the years, content which I don't think. Let me ask it this way. I don't think owners are lacking content. I don't think they're lacking information. I think what they're lacking is guidance. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Another big quote that I use all the time is I'm not the defender of an outdated map. I'm a guide in the changing landscape. And
Nice.
so, that's you go into a financial planner and he gives you a 37-page document, and this is going to be your financial plan. And those are beautiful, and I can create them as well. But I tell people that's a beautiful plan to use as a doorstep, a doorstop, not a doorstep, a doorstop, because it's out of date by the time you stapled it together, because nobody's life happens in a direct line. And so you always have a guide matters way more than a map. Hey, you can go climb Mount Everest. It's an awesome climb, got a great view, and I have the absolute best map in the world to do that. If you pay me $50,000, I'll give it to you. If you buy that map over paying a guide $150,000 to try and go up Everest, guess what?
I was
That
just I
map will
was
be
just
buried with you.
I was just thinking about the Sherpas of Everest. How many people start that journey with just a map? It would have been a paper map years ago, now electronic map, but no, everybody takes the person that's been on that journey multiple times with them.
Yeah. So
Hey,
I don't know how many times most people do not have an exit more than 2 or 3 times in life. If they're exiting their first one at 30, they may have another one at 40, 50. Let's say they exit 10 times. Well, I exit businesses probably 100 times a year. You exit businesses, and by the way, I don't get paid for exiting a business. I get paid later by managing the money. That's the only place I get paid. But when I've exited, I've watched the good, the bad, the ugly. They'll say, "Well, I'm thinking about doing this with my money," and I'll be like, "Well, Bob did that too. That's what he did, or Susie did that." But guess what? And I said Bob, and your name's Bob. That wasn't the idea. It wasn't you. It was the other Bob. But hey, so Susie did that. But this is what she found. And you say that, and they're like, "I didn't even think about that." because they know that you have experience doing these things. And so that's my job is to guide people. And so if a snowstorm comes while I'm climbing Mount Everest, um, I don't want a map. If I see some clouds going, if I hear some weird noises, there's nothing like having a guy there that goes, "Oh, I've done this a lot of times and I know what to do." The
There's a
problem with
cave up.
entrepreneurs, there's a
Yep.
problem with entrepreneurs because they're smart. They've created something, they're brilliant. What they've created is incredible. But just because you've been successful at this does not mean you can be or will be successful at every other step of the way.
Yep. Yep. Well, this has been awesome, Chris. We've got this section we call the rapid fire question section here as we round third and start heading toward home. All right, so here we go. Audience seems to like this one. This section. Let's start with this one. The biggest misconception that owners have about wealth after a sale.
You, your children don't need the biggest inheritance. They need the healthiest inheritance.
I like that.
That would be the biggest thing after the sale. So you make sure and structure that correctly.
That's good. That's good stuff. All right. One question every owner should ask before selling.
Every question, you'd say that again. I'm sorry. Read that one more time.
One question every owner should ask before selling.
I would ask, where is my money going to exit? So every dollar you have will eventually leave your hands. The question is whether we'll leave it intentionally. Everyone has a plan for an exit because everyone will exit their business, whether by death, by passing it on to children, by selling it, or by walking away. So if you're going to do that, are you going to do it with intentionality?
I heard years ago someone say, I think it was a wealth advisor, of the of your family, charities, or the government, which one of the two would you like to disinherit?
Exactly. And that's, by the way, that's one of our core principles is disinherit the IRS. We tell people, and you say, so how many beneficiaries do you have? They say 3. And I go, okay, 4. And they go, no, I said 3. I said, yeah, and so I let them play around with it a little bit. Like if I'm slow and I go, you forgot your favorite uncle. Uncle Sam is in there too. So let's just make sure we decide how much Uncle Sam gets. Make sure he doesn't decide that.
That's it.
Uh,
He's another thing I like to tell people, you can have your plan or someone else's plan.
yep, exactly. Exactly.
All
Mm.
right. Next question. The most overlooked family conversation before a liquidity event.
The most overlooked conversation for the family. Um, I
Or
believe it has to do.
overlooked topic, or what
Yeah,
should we have discussed before we sold?
I believe that many times, and this one hurts to say it. That's the reason I'm trying to think of how to say it without it. Um, your family thinks that success has equaled the pontoon boat on the lake, the great vacation that you took in the Ozarks, the wonderful time at Telluride, the great time that you had at Jackson Hole, and they missed out on the purpose for the money that you've had. The purpose was never those vacations. If you have the conversation ahead of time with your family, the purpose of our business is fill in the blank, then the liquidity event does not blur the line. So,
Yeah, that's well said. Thank you. Well, next question kind of ties into that. What creates peace after an exit?
uh, purpose. Here's something I would say among those two things. Something I like to say to people is that having you spent decades building your business, but have you spent any time in talking about what the next chapter is? You have to view your life as a book. Okay, I tell young people, stop reading chapter 11 from Gary Vaynerchuk, or stop reading chapter 13 from Steve Jobs, or stop reading from Elon Musk in chapter 32 and realize the chapter of your life that you're in. What you need to understand about selling a business, it's a book. And you have to understand that your life, your book does not close when you sell your business. Knowing your next chapter really matters. Knowing where it's going really matters. You don't want to close a book and throw it to the side and then be all upset because you sold your business because there's no longer a book. Keep writing, know what your purpose is, and keep going in that direction.
Wow. I was going to ask next, but I think I know the answer to it. What creates regret after an exit? And maybe it's the opposite of that, not knowing what life post company looks like.
Absolutely. You don't retire, and we call it retirement. I would even call it retirement when they're selling their business. Don't retire from something. Retire to something. The
Mm,
people that retire from something, they sit in their lazy boy and they watch Crocodile Hunter for the 13th time, and they don't know why. They have no purpose in life, and they die 5 years later.
I have
Retire
noticed
to
that.
something. Yeah,
Yep.
retire to something. Know what you want to do, and having fun is not the answer. It's not, oh, I'm going to go boat all the time. Go boat, have a great time on the boat, but retire to something, have a purpose. The same thing that woke you up in the morning, it made you the amazing entrepreneur that you are, that grit that you have. Continue to use that, but just use it for a better purpose. Let your financial liquidity now fund what you want to do. Just go out there and make an impact, make a dent in the world that only you can make.
Love it. We went to visit my wife's father in a facility, nice facility, but this past weekend, and a couple of people around him that just were walking by. They were either well into their 90s or about to clear 100. They all had something very similar to say, and they all didn't say it the same way, of course, but you could tell a life well lived was a life lived on purpose in
Absolutely.
each one of them.
Absolutely.
Um, Final quick question here. What would you say is the best step toward intentional generosity?
Intentional generosity never happens with tomorrow's dollars. Generosity never happens tomorrow. A generous person has to be generous today. And you may not have the money that you hope to have to be able to do generosity later, but be generous today. And what I mean by that is this: you have some way that you can be generous. The myth of scarcity, the TEDx talk that has over 1 million views on it, is it's all about, listen, be generous today. I tell people in that speech, I want you to close your eyes and think about, we're not talking about money. I want you to think about the two people who have most impacted your life. And then at the end of the thing, I'm like, I want you to think back to the two names that came to mind. And I want you to tell me what they both had in common. I've never had anybody say anything but this. Both of them were generous. They were generous with their time. They were generous with their love. They were generous with their empathy. They were generous. They were generous. So generosity has not got a dollar sign attached to it. It has a heart attached to it. And so just learn to be generous today with what you have. If you're generous with all of your currency and you don't have much of that dollar kind, it doesn't matter. You throw some dollars at you and you're going to be generous with that currency as well. So be generous. Be generous when you're driving down the road in Atlanta traffic. That's a hard one. Be generous when you're walking through Walmart and you're tired and you see a lady. I saw a lady yesterday, 80, 85 years old, and she's walking down one of the things in Walmart, and she's walking down. I looked at her and I said, "Ma'am, can I say something to you?" She said, "Yes, sir." I said, "You have got the most beautiful smile I have seen." I could have given her $1,000. It did not mean it. I wish you could see the look on her face when I said that to her. So one of the things I pray every day is, God, show me three people that I can be generous with today. And it may be money and it may not be. But intentional generosity does not start in the wallet. It starts in the heart.
100%. 100%. I was thinking of the two people as you were asking that question just now. I was thinking of the two people in my head, and yeah, generosity was a strong trait, is a strong trait in both of them.
Yep. Well, let me ask your viewers if they get a chance. The other thing that I have going on is I'm taking every verse in the Bible that has to do with health, that has to do with wealth, influence, possessions, and I'm taking and doing a 2-minute commentary every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on it. And we're on YouTube. We've got started it about 6 months ago. We have about 6,000 subscribers now, and it's just continuing to grow. Not preachy at all. It's just like, hey, look, this is what the principle that we learn here from this passage. So that I encourage you to go check that out.
Is there a name for that? Is it in a channel, or are
Yeah.
there keywords people should enter? What would that be?
Yeah, it's called Legacy Shift Now. Legacy
Okay,
Shift Now. So
got it. Well, Chris, to wrap it up, we like to ask this question of all of our guests here at the end of the show. If a business owner is expecting to exit in the next 3 to 5 years, what are the first wealth and purpose conversations they should initiate this quarter?
this quarter, they need to start looking at their identity, and they need to start looking at their purpose. And understand this: the goal isn't simply to die with the largest estate. It's to die with the most meaningful life. Make that a purpose in your life. Because here's the deal: the happiest business owners that I know, they don't stop working. They just stop doing work that they no longer enjoyed.
Hmm. Wow. Feel like we could keep talking. And well, folks, honestly, if you want to extend this conversation with Chris, suggest you reach out to him. Chris, this has been awesome. We've talked about a lot of good stuff here. There's going to be a lot of content that we'll be pushing out here at Exit Teams. Where can people get a hold of you to hear more about the good work that you do here in the wealth management space?
Yeah. So if you go to LinkedIn, it's linkedin.com/4 Chris Gardner. There's another financial advisor that had a movie that had the name Chris Gardner. Will Smith played him in the
Oh
Pursuit of
yeah,
Happiness. And so because of that, I don't get any of the cool domains, but it says #4 Chris Gardner on LinkedIn. You can find me there. My email address is chris.gardner@arcosglobal.com, or my cell phone number. That's the easiest way. You can text me. You can try and call me. I don't necessarily answer the phone because I tend to be in meeting podcast. But if you'll text me, I will get back with you as soon as I have a free moment. My cell phone number is 678-646-4692.
excellent. Folks, take note. Get a hold of Chris today. That's a wrap for today's episode of the Exit Teams podcast. A huge thank you to my guest, Chris Gardner, for sharing his insights. So if you're thinking about what life after your company looks like, especially stewarding your legacy, I suggest you reach out to Chris and see how he can help. If you're a business owner thinking about your next chapter, now's the time to start building your advisory team. You can learn more in my book, Exit Teams: Build a Team of Advisors for Your Business Sale to Get a Higher Price. That book is available on Amazon. And don't forget to visit exitteams.com for free resources and tools and insights that can help you prepare for a successful exit. Until next time, hey, build your team, sell smart, and take control of your future.